Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're unlocking the secrets of an absolute agricultural survivor, the moth bean, or as it's commonly called, mothgi. If you've ever wondered how certain crops manage to not just survive, but literally thrive in punishing, bone-dry environments where everything else just withers away, well, you're in exactly the right place. Mothgi is basically a drought-proof superhero crop. It's tough, it's incredibly adaptable, and when managed right, it pays off big time. We're going to map out the comprehensive management of this resilient legume, right from prepping the dirt to maximizing that final harvest.
Okay, let's dive right into this. So while maqui is famously built for those arid and semi-arid regions, and yeah, it doubles as a fantastic summer crop, it isn't completely invincible, right? It has a sweet spot. It relies on a super specific window of about 500 to 750 millimeters of rainfall to actually get established. It takes that moisture and builds this incredibly resilient root system that basically carries it through the brutal dry days ahead. Getting a handle on this baseline, that's our very first step to mastering maqui.
To really master this crop, we're going to follow a chronological journey, starting with climate and soil requirements, then seed treatment and sowing, nourishment and weed management, combating pests, preventing and treating diseases, and finally, harvesting for maximum yield.
All right, Section 1, Climate and Soil Requirements, building the foundation for matcha.
So just how tough is this plant? 37 degrees Celsius, that is hot. Mochi is insanely tolerant of high heat. Its absolute optimal temperature for growth sits comfortably right between 25 and 37 degrees. And what's truly a game changer here for farmers is that even peaking at those high temperatures, the plant's flowering and fruiting stages aren't negatively affected at all. It just keeps on producing.
Now, what about the ground it grows in? Well, the crucial thing to remember here is that mothgi actually breaks some standard agricultural rules. It doesn't actually want that heavy, nutrient-rich soil that holds onto water. Nope, it prefers light to medium soil types with a really low water-holding capacity. Fast drainage is absolutely vital, mostly because waterlogging will flat out destroy a mothgi crop. So strictly avoid heavy clay or highly saline soils. But here's the wild part. It uniquely tolerates a massive pH range. We're talking from an acidic 3.5 all the way up to a highly alkaline 10. Honestly, that kind of wild adaptability is exactly why it's such a survivor.
Moving on to Section 2, Seed Treatment and Sowing. Armoring the seed.
Before we even think about planting, we need a really precise strategy. Generally, your best window to sow is May to June, though, you can push a late sowing up to mid-July if you have to. Now, I definitely want to highlight the MBS variety here. It's tailored for regions like Western Maharashtra. It runs on a 125 to 130-day crop cycle, and it yields a pretty fantastic 6 to 7 quintals per hectare. Plus, crucially, it's highly resistant to the yellow mosaic virus, which is a big deal. For your standard acre, you're looking at a seed rate of 5 to 6 kilograms, and when those seeds go into the plowed rows, you want them spaced 3 to 4 inches apart and planted exactly 1 inch deep for that ideal emergence. But hold on, right before planting, we've got to apply a 2-part protective recipe. Think of it like putting armor on the seed. Step 1 is your chemical sealed. You mix every 1 kilogram of seed with 2 grams of therum and 2 grams of carbendazim. This essentially stops early fungal infections right in their tracks. Then step 2 is a biological boost. You take 10 to 15 kilos of those treated seeds and coat them with 250 grams of rhizobium bacteria, usually using a cold jaggery solution just to help it stick. This biological shield wards off soil-borne diseases and basically rigs the plant to pull vital nutrients straight out of the air.
Section 3, Nourishment and Weed Management. Nurturing the early growth.
Now, because maqui is a legume, and hey, thanks to that rhizobium treatment we just talked about, it's eventually going to fix its own nitrogen. But on day 0, exactly at the time of sowing, it does need a quick, immediate boost of 10 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare. After that, honestly, your main job is playing defense against weeds. The field has to remain completely weed-free for the first 3 to 4 weeks. So timing is everything here. You've got to get in there for a first hoeing around day 20 and hit it with a second one at day 25 just to completely eliminate any competition for those early resources. And while we've totally stressed that maqui is drought-resistant and handles the heat like an absolute champion, it does have one major vulnerability when it comes to water. If you want that maximum yield, you absolutely must provide critical irrigation, specifically when the plant reaches its flowering stage. Just a splash of water right when those flowers appear, that is the secret to a seriously heavy harvest. All right, Section 4, Combating mothgi crop pests. defeating the villains of the field.
Okay, let's talk pest control strategy. First up, the white grub. This guy attacks from below, damaging roots and causing the leaves to yellow and wilt. You hit back with imidacloprid. Then you have aphids, notorious sapsuckers that cause mold and transmit that dreaded mosaic virus we mentioned earlier. You can neutralize them with amamectin benzoate. And finally, the whitefly, which is another really serious sap-sucking threat, can be controlled with the precise dimethoate spray. Knowing exactly how your enemy attacks lets you deploy the precise chemical counterattack.
Now what's really interesting about this next threat is how we tackle the destructive pod borer. This is a pest that literally drills holes right into your buds and grains. But farmers actually have a choice in their arsenal here. You can take the biological route, utilizing a 5% neem seed extract or a 2% neem oil spray to just naturally deter the caterpillars. But if the infestation is severe, you've got heavy-duty chemical options too, like indosacchacarb or chlorantraniliprole, to swiftly eliminate the threat altogether. Moving to Section 5, Preventing and Treating Diseases, Protecting the Motki's Health.
Here are the 3 major invisible threats you need to be able to visually spot. First up, fusarium wilt. This one turns your leaves yellow and makes them drop way too early. The best offense here is a good defense. Treat those seeds with 0.1% mercuric chloride for a few minutes before planting. Next, if you start seeing elongated red or brown spots on the stems and leaves, that's bacterial leaf spot. You'll need a carbendazim foliar spray to shut that down. And finally, if you spot brown, pointed lesions that have these distinct red edges and gray centers, that's cercospora leaf spot, which can actually be managed biologically using azadirachtin. Identify the visual symptom, apply the specific cure. Simple as that.
And finally, Section 6, Harvesting for Maximum Yield, Reaping the Resilient Reward.
So Motki is actually a relatively fast crop. Between day 75 and 90, the entire plant should be fully mature and totally dry. That is your cue to cut the plants right at the base using sickles. But the process isn't quite over yet. The cut plants need an initial field drying period of up to 7 days. After that, they get stacked up in bundles out in the open sun for another 3 to 5 days. Only after following this strict drying schedule are they actually ready for threshing, whether you're using traditional bullocks, sticks, or just modern machines.
And post-threshing, you are aiming for one exact number, 8 to 10%. You absolutely must continue to dry those extracted seeds in the open air until their internal moisture drops to this specific threshold. Why? Because hitting that 8 to 10% moisture mark guarantees your maki seeds can be safely stored long-term without falling victim to rot or fungal growth.
When you put all of these structured practices together, the payout is seriously phenomenal. Using improved agricultural technology and the comprehensive management methods we just walked through, a farmer doesn't just pull 6 to 8 quintals of high-protein grain per hectare. Oh no, they also generate an immense 12 to 25 quintals of really high-quality fodder for their livestock. It is a massive double win for the farm's economy.
Which leaves us with this final thought. We're looking at a plant that thrives in 37-degree heat, survives on minimal, sporadic rainfall, grows in poor soil, and delivers both vital human nutrition and massive amounts of animal feed. As global temperatures rise and water becomes more and more scarce, we really have to ask, is Mutki the ultimate future-proof crop for a changing climate? It's certainly a resilient bean worth betting on. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.